want to show you how to upload and install your new niche WordPress site. I'm going to assume that you've already downloaded and unzipped your niche website files. Now, in addition to those niche website files, you're also going to need to download and unzip the latest version of WordPress. You can find the latest release version at wordpress.org. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the WordPress files, open up your WordPress config file in the main WordPress directory called wp-config-sample.php. Open that file up with your favorite text editor. Now, I use Edit Plus, but you can open it up with whichever text editor you prefer, including Notepad. There's a few items in here that we're going to need to configure in regards to our database. Now, we're not quite ready to do this yet, but we're going to go ahead and leave this file open and we'll come back to it in just a few minutes. The next step that we need to do is set up the database for the site. We do this by going into the site's control panel. Now, a lot of hosts use a brand of control panel software known as cPanel. If your host uses something different, that's okay. They all pretty much do the exact same thing, they're just packaged a little bit differently, so you should be fine in this tutorial. In the control panel for your website, we want the option that allows us to add a database. In cPanel, this is in the section called Databases. When you set up a database, there are two key components that are set up. The first is the actual database itself. The second thing we need to set up is a user that is assigned to that database. Now, you can either set these items up separately, or you can use the database wizard that combines these two steps into one simple process. I'm going to go ahead and use the database wizard for this example. The first thing it wants you to do is to name the database. I'm just going to name this one WP, so I know it's my WordPress database. Next, click on the Next Step button, which is then going to prompt you to create a user. I'm just going to name mine User, but you can name yours whatever you want. The next item we need is to fill in a password. You can either make up your own password or you can use the password generator. I'll go ahead and use the password generator so that I know it's nice and secure. Now, if you generated a password, go ahead and copy that to the clipboard now. Let's confirm that we want to use this password by clicking the Use Password button and then click on Create User to complete the user setup. The final step in this process is to assign what privileges this user has for the database we just created. So go ahead and click on the box next to All Privileges and submit it. Your database setup is now complete. Now let's switch back to that WordPress config file that we opened up a few minutes ago. Now that we've set up our database, let's go ahead and fill out these fields while it's all still fresh. Since we have the password we just set up copied to the clipboard, let's go ahead and paste that in where it wants us to define the database password. Be sure to leave the single quote syntax intact exactly like you see it now, or you could end up with some ugly errors later on. So where it says password here, I've gone ahead and pasted in the password that I just generated. Now let's fill in the other two fields. If you forgot the name of the database and the user that you just created, just switch back to the cPanel window we left a few moments ago. It will tell you the username and the database name that we just set up. So let's go ahead and fill in those last two fields. The next field down is the database host name. 9 times out of 10 you can leave this set to localhost. However, some installations do require a more specific host name, particularly on some shared hosting plans. If localhost doesn't work, just check with your hosting company and they can easily tell you what you need to put there. The very last step in this is to put in your unique authentication key. To easily generate a set of unique phrases to use for this section, copy the link provided in the config file and load it into your browser. This will display an automatically generated list of authentication phrases. Just copy the results and paste them over the existing phrases in your config file. Once you've completed all these steps, we need to save this file under a new name. Be careful not to just save it as it is or it won't work. Instead, we need to select the Save As command from the File drop-down menu and save it as wp-config.php. Now that we've set up the database and got our WP config file all ready to go, the next step is to upload the WordPress files to the server. Open up your FTP client. If you don't already have the FTP information for your site added, you'll want to go ahead and do that now. The exact steps will vary depending on which FTP client you are using, but the concepts are all pretty similar. You just need to find the area that allows you to add a new FTP account and then fill in the FTP details for your site. Normally, the username and password will be the same ones that you use to log into your control panel, and the FTP host will be ftp.yourdomain.yourextension. Once you've logged in, navigate to the specific directory on your server that you wish to install your blog in. If you want your blog to load on the main URL for your site, then you'll want to install the files directly into your public HTML directory. If you want it located in another area of the site, like a subdirectory, then you simply need to create or navigate to whichever directory you wish to install it in and upload the files there. For this example, I'm going to go ahead and upload the files into the public HTML directory because I want the blog to be the main feature of the site as soon as someone visits the domain. While those files are uploading, we have just a couple more pieces to prepare. What we've done so far is installed the basic WordPress framework. Now, in addition to that, we also have to get our niche website pieces ready to go as well by uploading the specific niche site files and importing the database. Let's look at preparing our database first. In your niche website folder, you should see a file in there called database.sql. Open that up with your text editor. In this file, we want to search for all occurrences of the string mysite.com and replace them with the URL where the blog is going to be installed at. So for this example, I'll go ahead and replace mysite.com with learningguitarguide.com. After completing this step, save the file. Next, we need to import this file into our database. So let's go back into our control panel and back to the database menu. Double-click on the icon that says phpMyAdmin. Once that loads up, over on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll want to click on the name of the database that we set up earlier for this website. After you've selected the database, go ahead and click on the Import link at the top of the screen. Next, click on the Browse button and select the database.sql file that we just got finished modifying. Now just hit the Go button in the lower right and your database should be successfully imported. The only thing left to do now is to upload our niche website files. Let's go ahead and return to our FTP program. Assuming that the program is finished uploading the WordPress files that we started a little while ago, we're now going to navigate to find the niche website files contained in the directory called Upload. In that Upload directory, you'll see a directory called I. The I directory contains some image files for your website. Upload that directory into the main installation directory of your blog. In my case, I'll upload it to the public HTML directory. Next, you'll see a directory named WP-content. Upload the contents of this directory into the corresponding directory on your server. Now that we've got all our files uploaded to the server, the database customized with the proper URL, and imported into the database, it's time to see if we actually have a working site. So go ahead and fire up your internet browser and type in the domain name and make sure that the site loads properly. Now, if you see an error message that says something like error establishing a database connection, then double check your WordPress config file to make sure that you entered all of your database details correctly. If they're entered correctly and it still doesn't fix the problem, then remember it could also be an issue with the database hostname being localhost, so go ahead and check with your hosting provider to find out exactly what you should have there. Once you've got the site running properly, let's go ahead and log into the WordPress admin panel. To find the URL of your WordPress admin panel, go to your main blog installation, so in my case it's learningguitarguide.com, and then just add a / followed by WP-admin. This will take us to the WordPress administration login screen. Now here you're going to need a username and a password to be able to log in. You'll find these details in the page that has your installation video tutorial. It's directly underneath the video player. Once you've logged in, click on the Users menu on the left-hand side of the screen and select Your Profile from the menu options. Now there's plenty of profile fields in here that you can customize later on, but for right now we're just going to worry about the email address and changing the password. For the email address, make sure you enter a valid email address that you use, because if you ever forget your password and need to have it reset, this is the email address that the script will send the reset link to. Next, you need to change the password to your own unique password. Make sure you make it long enough, I'd recommend at least 8 characters long, and use a mixture of uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters so that it keeps your account secure. Back at the menu on the left-hand side of your WordPress admin panel, let's click on the Settings tab. This contains the links to various settings of your new blog that you're going to want to go through and look at later. For now, we simply want to go to General Settings. Here you can put in a custom title and tagline for your website, and also you'll want to change the email address in here to your own email address so that you're able to receive important updates and communications relating to the various aspects of your blog. To change the ad units over to your own custom ad code, click on Revolution Lifestyle Options from the Appearance menu on the left, and then insert your own ad codes in each of the individual ad unit settings. The very last step that we need to do is to set the permissions for a few files and directories on the server to be writable by the server. By setting permissions, we're basically telling the server who is allowed to do what. For more information on understanding file permissions, please visit the link displayed on the screen. Now, depending on who you host with, these settings may vary. To set the proper write permissions for these files, most hosts require the permissions to be set to 755. If you're unsure, just check with your host to determine the correct settings for your server. Navigate to your WordPress content directory, that's WP-content, and locate the folder called Uploads. If it doesn't exist, then you'll need to go ahead and create it now. We need to ensure that this directory is writable by the server so that you're able to upload images to your blog. The exact steps to set permissions may vary slightly depending on your FTP client. Now in this example, I'm using Fire FTP, which is a free add-on for Firefox. In this client, all you need to do is right-click on the file or directory and then select Properties from the menu options. Set your permissions as required by your host and save it. If you plan to use the WordPress theme editor at all, you'll need to set the proper write permissions for your theme files as well. You can find the location of your theme files by clicking on the Themes link in the Appearance menu options on the left-hand side of your WordPress admin, and it will give you the exact name and location of your theme files. Simply navigate to that directory using your FTP client and set the appropriate permissions for each of your individual theme files. Once you've done all these steps, you should have a fully functioning blog and you're ready to hit the ground running.